guys, welcome back to Room 237, and before I get to the review, I just want to say I really apologize for the video quality in the last two videos, and most likely this one. Just with my limited uh, technical equipment, I've been having some huge difficulties with getting the final edits of videos to upload them, so I've had to go with much lower quality. So I apologize for that. But I'm doing an 80s film, so uh, maybe that'll help it. I'm also going to try to make these videos much, much shorter, so see if that helps. But I went to go pick up my Steelbook copy of Dexter New Blood today, and I happened to be browsing and I came across this film, which is one I've heard of. I had never seen. I always thought it was a slasher film. You know, it came out in 1983. I just figured, and I've seen it listed with slashers sometimes. I don't know why. But it does kind of fit with some of the um, reviews that I've done. You know, uh, like recently, the the Other Lamb, The Wind. A while ago, I reviewed The Witch, and this goes along with that, the Western or folk horror subgenre, which I'm actually finding myself becoming quite fond of. And this is considered by many to be either the or one of the pioneering or seminal folk horror films. In fact, it's actually included on Severin's All Haunts Be Ours 20 folk horror film box set, which, despite its price, I would love to get that. And this was put up by Severin. And if it wasn't put up by Severin, most people probably still would not have seen it because of just how unavailable it's been, even on VHS, since its release in the 80s. But it's 1983's Eyes of Fire. And even that's a really cool cover. And this was the first film directed by Avery Krauts, who got his start kind of, I think, with a photography. He was inspired by Roman Polanski to get into photography, and then from there, try to get into filmmaking. I know he would go on to do The Invisible Kid and Sister Island, but this was his first film. He wrote and directed this. And it stars largely either unknowns or people that would go on to be in other things. Like, the only one I recognized was Will Hare, who played Creepy Grandpa in Silent Night, Deadly Night, just a year after this. But also stars Dennis Lipscomb, who to me kind of reminded me of Kyle MacLachlan from David Lynch films. Rebecca Stanley, Sally Klein, who also serves as the narrator of the film, Fran Ryan, Rob Paulson, Carrie Sherman, and Ivy Bethune, and Carleen Crockett as Leah. Oh, and also Guy Boyd, who I guess is kind of our lead. I know he's been in some other things too. But the music was by Brad Fidel, or Fidel, who has also he also did the music for The Accused, 1988. He did the music for both Fright Nights, the first two Terminators, and it does kind of have a John Carpenter-esque, especially it sounded like The Thing, where there's like this just two-note bass line, just boom, 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 boom. But then it also has this very Celtic folk type sound that really helps. And the cinematography was done by Wade Hanks. Now, this movie is very good. I did very much enjoy this. It's unlike anything else I've seen from the 80s, especially the 80s. Considering it only had like a $2.6 million budget, and it was a first time director, and very little resources went into it. it's pretty ambitious. I mean, for especially for its effects. Yes, its special effects are dated, but they still feel very ambitious, especially the look of the woods spirit, like the actual witch, I guess, which its alternate title was Cry Baby Blue, which I think is what they were calling the orphan girl that shows up. But yeah, the look of the big witch is very, it's kind of like Swamp Thing, just mixed of all elements of the woods. But also you got 80s optical effects, like when lightning hits something, or kind of like Scanners, how it has that sort of infrared look, but not really. And it's all atmosphere. I mean, it might be more upfront with its supernatural elements, but like The Witch, which I think a lot of people have kind of compared The Witch to this, because it is about pioneers in, I think it says 1750, being banished from their settlement. This is for different reasons than in The Witch, but they get banished. They find this sort of sacred land or feared land, and the Witch of the Woods starts coming after them, or at least after the children in the group, and trying to take out the adults in the process. And it does play on the paranoia of the group of settlers and sort of their downfall, trying to break them up from the inside. Uh, Dennis Lipscomb, again, kind of Kyle MacLachlan looking. He plays a preacher. Well, actually, first, it opens up, it does that thing that modern horror movies do where it takes place, like, it opens up after the events and then is told as a story through flashback in narration. But where it's a folk horror film, I kind of like that it's told as a story from one person to another. The final three characters left from the settlement are found by the French military, and they have to tell their story of how they got there. So every once in a while, we'll get narration from those people telling the story. But anyway, Dennis Lipscomb plays Will Smythe, which I had to laugh when I heard that, because I mean, sounds like Will Smite, Will, which should be Will Smith's new name now, Will Smite, who was having an affair with a woman named Eloise, who's married, and was it Eloise's mother? He he was having an affair with two women, one of which was Eloise, who is married to Guy Boyd's character, Dalton. But he also had an affair with this this other woman who was burned as a witch before the events of the film, and she has a daughter named Leah, who, since I don't have Wi-Fi, I can't look up who it is, but Leah is deemed to be insane. She's silent. She has odd behavior, but she has witch powers as well. Will is to be hanged, but Leah is able to stop it by making the rope snap. So, Will, Eloise, they're banished for the affair. But then Leah, this other couple who are the Buchanans, this elderly couple, the husband of which is played by Will Hare, the elderly couple's granddaughter and the Buchanan's young daughter. They were all against the hanging, so they make up our group of settlers. And at first, there's the attacks of Native Americans, and some of this is filmed kind of like a TV movie. I thought it looked like some sort of historical piece that you might watch in school. especially because there's a lot of like fade to black transitions, you know, as if there's a commercial break there. Especially during the first Native American attack when they're on uh, a boat. They call it the ferry. They stole it, I think. Leah just kind of like stands. It goes kind of blurry and out of focus to show that she's using her magic to deflect the attack. It then fades to black. There's a lot of fade transitions, and it does feel like a made for TV movie. But once they actually get to this sort of feared land, because Eloise's husband Dalton is fluent in a lot of the tribe's languages, which the Shawnee tribe is the one that's native to that area. He's able to communicate with them to kind of have them stall the attacks because he was out hunting. He comes home, realizes his wife is left with the preacher and all them. So he goes to catch up. And I had to laugh because he's dressed in all this garb, I guess, to blend in with the woods, but also to blend in with the Shawnee, I guess. And he's got this, like, goret or something on his nose. And it just reminded me of the Monty Python bit of, it's pronounced mangrove. just, it made me laugh. And they find these burnt down, dilapidated cabins that the Shawnee fear because of their superstitions of that part of the land. And you come to find out it's that part of the land is run by the mother of the woods or the queen of the woods. And you get a lot of cool imagery. I mean, within the tree, like there's faces in the trees. The queen or the mother of the woods is the one that kind of looks like Swamp Thing. It has these eyes of fire, which there is a line of dialogue that goes into that. You know, it looks like an animal's eyes when they approach a fire at night. But some of the members are either led astray or they come under attack. She also has, they find like a tablet that kind of tells the story of a group of 7 other settlers that went missing or were killed. They now serve as slaves to the, I'm just going to call her the witch. So they always appear naked and covered in mud. They're the ones that try to bring the main characters to this one tree where the witch kind of resides. And supposedly she wants children. That's what she really feeds off of. But whenever the characters are sort of taken, they kind of go catatonic. Then their face appears within a tree, and they can be stopped if you chop the tree. But then it becomes an inner battle between Will, who's the preacher. It's sort of one by one of everyone else. Especially when this orphan girl shows up, this Shawnee orphan girl, who Will wants to baptize and raise her as a Christian. But Leah has these premonitions. She had a premonition of the first attack on the boat, an attack, sort of this girl turning into like a face of the witch with the eyes of fire. It really, the atmosphere is very rich in this film. A lot of the shots, like after they find the orphan girl, they go to raise a cross, and it has like this orange light, the sky there in silhouette. A lot of those scenes, I think, kind of look like matte paintings for sky. I could be wrong, but it is effective. Or a lot of some shots, like when they're going through the woods at night, you get like the moonlight through the trees there in silhouette. Looks great. The cinematography of this film is very well done. The real creepy parts is like one of the women, Fanny, she goes missing, and when she's found, there's like the 7 slaves. who are all covered in white mud, and they're all kind of crouched by her, and they all look up at the same time. I mean, there are some genuinely creepy shots throughout this. And it all just leads up to the end when, they find out how to defeat the witch, and we catch up to the beginning of the film. Leia starts to be more and more cast out from everyone else. Uh, Eventually, Will is kind of shunned from everyone. More people keep dying out. And I don't really want to give the ending away just because it is such an underseen film. I don't even remember if this was on In Search of Darkness or not. But if you like movies like The Witch or other folk horror kind of like that, if you liked The Other Lamb or if you liked The Wind, this is a great, another really good addition to that subgenre, but done 80s style. And yeah, there are some big effects, like when one of the slaves or entities or spirits, whatever you want to call them, are stopped, they explode. So there's more explosions than you would think for like a folk or western horror film. Or like when lightning strikes a tree, it gets covered in lightning, and it's just that 80s kind of like zzz, zzz. Kind of reminded me of The Entity, which I would say The Entity is a better made film. I don't even really want to compare it because, a poltergeist type film and then this folk film. Which this also comes with short folk horror films, Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Transformations, both from 1972, and Backwoods from 2018. Which I think those are on that box set as well, which again I would love to get. But yeah, it essentially is. Oh, and also, who was it? The New York Times said that it's kind of like The Scarlet Letter meets The Exorcist. I would say it's kind of like The Thing meets something like The Wind. Or The Exorcist, yeah. But I say The Thing because a lot of the horror, aside from the visuals, like the spirits of the woods and all of that, or even some of the jump scares, like when they're digging up for a garden, the elderly woman, she sticks her shovel or her hoe into the dirt, blood comes out of it, and just this head comes out. It's just a vision, but other than stuff like that, it really is the paranoia and just the downfall of the group within itself, and just the sense of dread about what's out there, because eventually they do build this stockade wall, and it's is mostly atmosphere. And I mean, for a movie that really is built on its atmosphere, there's a lot of great creepy visuals as well. So I'm going to say spoilers here. I'm just going to say the ending real quick. I'm not going to put the screen up or anything. I'm trying to make this as short as possible. But eventually Leah is able to get the powers of the big witch, the Swamp Thing witch. Dalton is able to weaken her. Dalton even becomes like a figure in the tree, but Leah is able to communicate, tell him to come out of the tree and take her out, snap her neck, which then Leah absorbs all the power. And yeah, it has some of those 80s effects, like where it's just like this red glow around someone, almost like a Star Trek effect. But and those dated effects I do forgive because the atmosphere is so rich and so well done. And when there are practical effects, like, the main witch, they are still well done. and she's able to kind of end and free the slaves so that the final characters who are left, which is the girl Fran and the two young girls, they were put in a crate to be washed away downstream so that Eloise and the Buchanan wife could shoot away the mud-covered slaves that are coming after them. But that's when Leah takes over. They fall and die. And Fran and the two girls say, and that's where you found us, essentially, to the French military. They still don't believe. So one guy says to the other, take them away. And we see one of the soldiers with these eyes to show that Leah's possessed him and she's going to make everything okay for them. But yeah, I'm really growing fond of this folk horror subgenre. And, I really liked the modern ones, like The Other Lamb and The Wind. Loved The Witch. I mean, The Witch is still my favorite horror movie of the 2010s, or since 2010 even. So I'd really be interested in what else is in that box set and check out more like this. And again, if you like those movies, or if you like folk horror and haven't seen this yet, then I do recommend it. Great atmosphere, really nice score that really helps underlie everything, especially the John Carpenter bit, like boom, 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 boom. The effects, especially the face in the trees or the main witch. The lots of great cinema. Kind of looks. There's some kind of a music video looking shots, like what they do with the sky, like when they put that cross up, it is the orange sky. Which, when Krauts was doing photography, he was seen as an experimental photographer, so it makes sense. Or just like those creepy moments with the group of spirits, when how they'll all be in a group just silently sitting in a position and they all look at the same time. Just really genuinely creepy visuals that very little jump scares, which in the 80s that really wasn't too much of a problem unless it was something like a slasher film. But yeah, I thought this was pretty ambitious for its budget for the time it came out. I mean, 1983, slashers had already peaked, but I mean, to come out at the height of the slasher genre, to come out with this off-the-wall folk horror film, it was pretty ambitious, and it shows. So yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about it, but very worth checking out, and I thank Severin for putting this out, because without them, I think this still would have been a virtually unseen horror gem. But that's 1983's Eyes of Fire. Hopefully the quality of this is better. We'll see. But anyway, thank you for watching.